The alien warrior woke screaming beneath a sky filled with burning clouds and falling ash, his body crushed into the ground by twisted metal and betrayal. And before he remembered his name, he remembered the sound of his own commanders, condemning him as weak, broken, cursed. He had once been a symbol of fear across the stars, a frontline enforcer of an empire that believed mercy was a flaw and hesitation was death. Yet everything ended on a small human colony where he lowered his weapon instead of killing, a family that stood shaking before him, their child hiding behind them, and that single moment of doubt destroyed his life. The high clans dragged him before the council, stripped his rank, shattered his blade, carved shame into his armor. And when the human counterattack came with terrifying precision, they chained him, wounded him, and threw him onto a dying moon as bait while their fleet fled, leaving him to bleed beneath a silent sky. He survived the first night only because rage refused to let him rest, the second because pain kept him awake, and the third because something deeper began to grow inside him, something he did not yet understand. Days turned into weeks as he crawled through ruins and dust storms, hunted by automated drones and wild creatures, stitching his wounds with scavenged wire, drinking condensation scraped from broken pipes, and learning what it meant to exist without command, without purpose, without belonging. From shattered towers, he watched human forces arrive, expecting slaughter and revenge, but instead he saw them digging through wreckage, pulling survivors free, crying openly over their dead, sharing food and water even with prisoners. And the sight disturbed him more than any weapon ever had. When humans finally found him, fear returned instantly. Rifles raised, voices shouting, and plasma burned through his side, throwing him against stone, and they left him there again, assuming the monster would finally die. He did not. A human child found him later, small and shaking, eyes wide with terror. Yet instead of screaming or running for soldiers, the child placed a canteen near him and fled. And that single silent act cracked something inside the warrior that centuries of war had hardened. When soldiers returned, they chained him, interrogated him, beat him, blamed him for crimes he did not commit and wars he no longer believed in, while humans argued over his fate, some demanding execution, others demanding answers. He spoke little, choosing silence over defense, learning their language slowly through listening, watching how humans doubted orders, questioned leaders, argued even in crisis, and still chose to help one another despite fear and exhaustion. Then the sky burned again. His people returned, not to rescue him, but to erase evidence and silence witnesses, and the human base descended into chaos as sirens screamed and walls shook. The alien warrior saw his past standing before him in familiar armor, weapons raised, faces empty of mercy, and in that moment he understood who he truly was. He shattered his restraints and stepped into fire, taking the first blast meant for a human medic, pain tearing through him as he fought not with hatred but resolve. He predicted every movement of his former brothers, guiding humans through hidden tunnels memorized during invasion planning, carrying wounded soldiers through smoke and darkness, sealing blast doors knowing he would be trapped behind them. When the reactor core began to fail, threatening to destroy everything, he stayed behind, manually venting the system as radiation burned through his flesh, knowing he would not survive, yet smiling as human ships escaped into orbit. Darkness took him. He awoke days later, buried beneath rubble, burned, blind in one eye, bones shattered, yet alive, abandoned once more. Crawling back to the landing field where the war began, he believed no one would return, believing sacrifice meant nothing without witnesses. Weeks passed. Hunger hollowed him. Hope faded. Then the sky changed. Human ships returned. Soldiers surrounded him in fear and silence as he forced himself upright, knees shaking, vision blurred, pride finally dead. He knelt, pressing his ruined forehead to the ground, voice trembling not from weakness but truth, and whispered words no alien warrior had ever spoken. "Please take us with you, human." He begged not only for himself, but for the civilians left behind, the children raised on hatred, the broken who never chose war. Silence stretched across the field as weapons slowly lowered and orders were ignored. The human commander stepped forward and saw not a monster, but a shattered protector who chose compassion over conquest. Medics ran. Hands reached out instead of pulling away. As the alien warrior was lifted onto the ship, stars stretching into light beyond the hull, he realized his empire had lied. Strength was not domination. Victory was not extinction. Humanity had won not by destroying his people, but by saving one broken soul and choosing to believe that even an enemy could change. And in that choice, the galaxy finally learned what hope truly meant.